I'm standing on an outcrop of rock slightly to the south of Scandasham. We're looking at the great temple of Aronachaleshwara, the principal temple of Tiruvannamalai. Ahead of us you can see the four main gopurams on the cardinal points. The one furthest away is the Raja Gopuram, about 220 feet high. That was completed in the 16th century, and that completed the main buildings of the temple. The earliest buildings, though, are the ones immediately behind the first Gopuram, which you can see at the bottom of the hill, and they date from about the 9th century. Progressively over the next 600 or 700 years, the temple added more and more courtyards, got bigger and bigger, until it reached its final shape sometime in the 1600s. This is where Bagavan came in 1896 after his journey from Madurai. In those days it was a quiet, peaceful town, maybe 20,000–30,000 people. He arrived at the front gate, and by some minor miracle he said it was closed that day, but as he walked in, all the doors of all the courtyards of the temple spontaneously opened one by one. He said he walked through, nobody was there, it was completely empty, and when he got to the inner shrine, he spontaneously stepped over the bar, which only the priests are supposed to go behind, and hugged the lingam. He said that from the moment he left Madurai, he had a burning sensation in his body, and the moment he hugged the lingam in the temple, that burning sensation disappeared, and there's no other record of Bagavan entering the inner shrine again. I think on that particular day, when he had the whole temple to himself, he formally announced himself, attained a symbolic union with his God and his guru, and then after that he never went into the inner shrine again. For the next 18 months he lived in various corners of the temple. He lived in abandoned shrines, he lived under trees, and after about 18 months there he moved out to Guru Murtam, about 1.5 miles from here. Towards one side of the temple, about 300 yards away, there's an outcrop of rock called Pavalakundru. It means coral hill in Tamil, but it's not coral, either pink or material. It's a little granite outcrop, and that's where Bagavan went in 1898 to stay, and that's where his mother eventually found him. He didn't stay there for long, but it's a significant place because it's the place where his family finally caught up with him. Kandawami, somewhat mysteriously, disappeared almost immediately. Although he was the person who had started this ashram in 1902, although he'd lived here for 15 years developing the site, excavating massive portions of the hill to build a terrace, planting all the trees, watering them for 15 years, putting up at least 2 buildings here. Around the time that Bagavan arrived, he went back to his original town, which is somewhere near Coimbatore, and no one ever saw or heard from him again. It's one of the little mysteries as to why the man who put so much work into this site just disappeared and never came back. However, as a commemoration of all the labour he'd put into developing the site and making it such a gorgeous place to live, it was decided that the ashram should be called Scandasham. We're currently looking at the door of Bagavan's mother's room at Scandasham. She had a private room there. She lived there and she passed away in that room in 1922. As we pan around, this is a veranda in front of the main inside building. This is a place where people would eat, sit with Bagavan, and inside that is the central portion. We're looking at the innermost portion of Scandasham. Scandasham was never a cave like Virupaksha cave. The most it has is a little overhang at the back, and this became a kind of little shrine or temple inside the ashram. Bagavan's photo was installed there, and those devotees who wanted to perform some kind of worship of his form would be directed to the image inside here. Mudaliyapati, for example, one of his early devotees, used to walk up from town and do puja to the picture at the back of Scandasham. Bagavan, in some ways, let people do all kinds of odd things to his body, but the one thing he would never let them do is do any kind of formal worship.
And this is a cave-like room where most of the visitors coming here like to meditate. One of the very interesting stories about Bagavan is that several times a week, sometime in the evening, he would enter deep samadhi while listening to Vedic hymns. He would go in such deep trance that only blowing conch shell for a long period of time would finally bring him out of that trance of samadhi. This is the room where Bagavan slept when he was living in Scandasham.
Bagavan,